Hello, universe. Welcome to Pickathon Podcast, episode 32. I'm your host, Zale Schoenborn. Today, my guest is going to be the amazing Doug Martsch from Built to Spill and many other things in music that's important to many of us that are kind of in the DIY scene ourselves. You know, one of the things that we love to cover here is creative stories, origin stories. Today is going to be really special for a lot of us because, I don't think I've interviewed a lot of DIY artists, and over the time I've known folks, but the one thing that I think Pickathon and Built to Spill, I take a lot of solace as somebody who has been basically trying to be in control of their own universe for so long and not giving up because things are hard or different, coming at it from, controlling where they want to go, thinking of Pickathon for ourselves, this holiday edition, which will be coming out right between Christmas and New Year's. So happy holidays, everyone. Our latest adventure on the DIY, we're one of these, everybody that's a musician is somewhat DIY. At some point, you might get lucky and you get into the slipstream of the corporate world. I had one of those corporate day jobs where I worked at, Intel forever, but it did actually allow me to do a kind of a fuck-off version of a music festival where we didn't care. We just wanted to kind of give money back to community radio and invite our friends and make it as cool a party as we could think of. And that kind of changed over time for us many years, as we talk about a little bit here. Anything like that, other people have to be involved. And after a while, they're just, some folks are just like, I can't do this for free, or, I want to have a kid or whatever. And me being the holder of that dream for a while, it's just like, I'm moving on. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to figure it out. And those things sometimes feel really hard, and a lot of people who have been in any kind of self-project business totally know what I'm talking about. It's crazy. And so fast forward for us, this will be our 24th year, started in 99, and this thing is still not easy. Like, we are one of the only festivals not owned by the people with so much money that they don't care how we operated it. We wouldn't be Pickathon if we were owned by somebody else. We would be, a single stage. We talk a lot about the business of this festival is just kind of like, you need to make it as crappy as possible. Have just the fewest bands you can get away with that people will buy tickets. And that's the way. It just seems so sad for music fans, for people, for musicians, for things that kind of joyous experience of what a music festival can be. And so that's so important to us that we're still standing, and now we're at this kind of rep thing where we're talking about, the past and the present and the future. The present for us is we submitted our conditional use permit a little while ago. I think I even mentioned it on this podcast. It hasn't been on the blog just because I wanted to keep it on the down low. I'm still working on that thing. It's the most complicated thing I've ever done in my life. It's a couple hundred pages, and I get pissed off a little bit about these things because I'm like, oh, people are really trying to grind me into a hole. Like they're the kind of things that I didn't have complete. But talking to people are usually better than that, and I keep coming back to that. Like, the people that were helping me from the city were really looking at it from the perspective of like, you don't want to have any holes. Here's the things you need to kind of nail, because if there is some ill will out there and things happen, then that's the way they're going to get traction, is that you just didn't answer some of the questions that had to be answered. And I appreciate that. And I was like, okay, you're right. So I'm going to go back and spend more time on that. And, at the same time, we're still trying to, we haven't talked about it all. We're trying to imagine an end game. Like, what the heck? We can't, our parking lot right now is going to be kind of gone again in 4 or 5 years. Or what's after that? And so we're working with, the city and Portland State in a way I haven't talked about yet, where we're kind of dreaming that this is a cultural district. What does that mean? Stay tuned. But it's the scrappiness that I just point to. It's just like, refuse to give up. It's like, okay, this is the end. No, it's not. I see this kind of creative connections. I see these things. These things are still important, and based on the way we approach this, it's just like we enjoy bringing the best music that our community. We're not smart enough on our own. We open source the crap out of smart people who love music, and we collect, and that process is kind of renewing and gives you faith in humanity. And just you can drink beer and argue about music and play foosball forever. I think I'm not sure that it actually ever gets bad. And then just dreaming up the experience, like, so that's the things that are make us as kind of dumb. We should be doing this differently from a business, but we hope over time that we have fans, that DIY thing kind of works, and maybe it's more resilient than just doing it the kind of like commercial way that kind of gets traction a lot faster. And that's where I think I share a lot with my guest today. I'm excited to talk. Hey Doug, how you doing?
Good. Yeah, no, I hear you. We have Treefort Festival here in Boise, and it's
Love it.
Similar aesthetic, and I think that people recognize what you're doing, and people know it's not corporate. People can feel it, and people think of these festivals as like they're like holidays,
Yeah.
like special holiday where it's like happy Treefort, happy
Yeah.
Pickathon, and
Yeah.
everyone's
I love Treefort.
treats the whole event like it's just they're both really magical events.
Do you know Eric from Treefort?
I do. Mm-hmm.
Yep. He came early on. It's like when we were just starting before them, and he would come
Mm-hmm.
and help. And it's like, I got, we're trying to start this thing.
Yeah, I'm sure you got a lot from you guys. Yeah.
It was awesome. No, we love to collaborate. I still have never been. I need to find a time, like it's like right around spring break with like kids and all that fun stuff. So yeah,
It's too big now. You don't want to go.
It is big, huh?
It's big, but it's still fun. You still
I
want to
mean,
go.
these things, like you look back and like the DIY, like things like South by Southwest, right? Like you probably have seen that since the beginning, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It was
I,
totally
I mean,
different.
I feel like when South by Southwest was out of control right away, it felt like.
Really?
But at least when we went there, I don't know. I can't remember when we were there first, but it's always been just a clusterfuck of a
Mm-hmm.
festival. I liked it though, like play a couple shows in a day and just all this
Yeah,
kind of weirdness of
totally. In all the local
just
communities and
playing
bars
weird little
and
places. Yeah, totally. But I haven't been there in a long time either. I think actually the last time I was there was the with Treefort's first year, which is I guess 11 years ago, because
wow.
we played the first Treefort. We like headlined it, and we
Yep.
went to South by Southwest to kind of and do like we did like a Duck Club showcase, Eric's promotional company, and
Mm-hmm.
so kind of did like a a show to like promote the festival a little bit. That
That's
was the last
cool.
time I was there.
Yeah. So Treefort is kind of like is. I mean, how many venues are in Treefort? Like, how many places do people play?
I don't know. I feel like a dozen.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe more.
And those are all real venues, or are they?
There's like no, there's some places that just are temporary venues. There's a
Mm-hmm.
couple big stages. There's even some like little rooms that they just open up for the festival. Like there was a room that was in the artist lounge building that they turned made a venue for the festival. But then there's
Yeah.
there's a lot of like good solid the Neurolux been around forever. Every punk band's played there, and Treefort Music Hall just opened, which is like a big, I don't know what capacity, 1,000 capacity or something that competes with the Knitting Factory.
Oh yeah. Was that always a venue? The one they opened, the Treefort venue, or is that?
The Treefort venue just opened. The last Treefort Music Hall just opened in March.
Did they make it? Was it like an existing venue they rehabbed or?
No, it was parts of it were like a Staples or something like that.
I love
And
that.
then I think it might have been part of the movie theater too. I'm not sure exactly what the space is, but no, it's an old space, kind of downtown, and they just totally just did a full on mega remodel of it. It's real fancy. It's really nice.
That's awesome. I think it really heartens me to know when you have those kind of like community things that last, right? And
Hmm.
can, and I know Tree Fort's totally like that. Like, did you grow up in
You should.
Boise? Is oh, go,
I did sort of. You should talk to Eric sometime. They
I
also
do.
they did shows at the Shriner, or for your podcast. It'd be interesting. I think the Shriner. They have they started purchasing things recently. The
Oh
Tree
wow,
Fort Duck Club people, like this music hall. Up until then, they'd just been leasing places. So they bought that, and they bought um, this El Cora, what are they called? Like Shriners kind of place.
that's the smartest thing. Then
Threatened to be torn down. They've been having shows there all the time. They would only use it for Tree Fort for 10 years, but now they're doing shows all the time there. It's really nice.
that's so great. I mean, it's like a local promotion company, right? That's not your
Hmm.
typical. I mean, Knitting Factory is kind of they're independent, but they're kind of big. They're right below Live Nation and AG, you know.
Yeah,
So
yeah, and it's just a weird scene over at the Knitting Factory. It
yeah,
seems like you don't even know anyone there. Like none of your friends, your music friends, are working there. I don't know who these people are, what it is. It's been that way forever.
it's more of a business, you know. I've known different people who have, I think good people trying to run a large business, and they own some stuff, all over the country now. Like they ran before. I think Desert Days was kind of backed by them and didn't survive just
I don't know about
because.
that, but yeah, there's knitting factories all over. Yeah.
Hmm. And they own Pappy and Harriet's too, down there
Oh, yeah, that's right.
in down in the
That
desert.
place is
So,
nice, though.
oh, it's awesome. I was thinking about Boise. Is that where you actually grew up?
I grew up as a kid in Twin Falls, and then that's 100 miles away from here, and then moved here it's like a month before I started high school when I was 14.
So, like, where did you start, like, playing music? Did you do that in Twin
Here.
Falls? Oh yeah.
No, here. So yeah, I was definitely into music, all the time growing up and stuff. And then right when I moved to Boise, I kind of made a transition from like listening to Ozzy Osbourne and Def Leppard, and I like discovered the REM. I saw them on David Letterman and like David Bowie, and I started getting into like alternative music or whatever. And I moved to Boise, and my brother had a guitar, and I'd always kind of plunked around on it a tiny bit, but I had a month before school started. I didn't have any friends. I didn't have anything to do, and I just I'm going to learn how to play this thing now. And that was how I learned how to play guitar. And then living in Boise was amazing. I went to like Boise High School, which was the downtown liberal school where all the
Mm.
cool punks and stuff were. Met
Yeah,
punk kids and really just met awesome people that really made my life what it is. And then at that time of my life.
that's pretty cool. Like, so no one taught you guitar? Were you just like there was not really YouTube in those days?
Yeah, my brother showed me
Some,
all the basic chords and then the
there you
chord
go.
positions to do bar chords, and then so I knew all the chords, and then I started writing songs right away. I'd figure out other people's songs, but it'd just be the chords. I would never figure out their exact guitar parts. I was very intimidated and didn't really, I wanted to learn to play guitar so I could write songs and not to be a shredder or anything. In fact, I remember as a kid seeing people on TV like playing guitar, and I
Hmm.
thought like that looks so hard and unfun. It just looks like so. Wow, what are they doing? I'd hate to have to do that. Learn how to do something that hard.
Yeah, and you were starting to sing too. Were you when you were writing songs? So
I always like to sing.
that started at the beginning. Your did you have a band in high school? Did you start a band in high school?
Yeah. Well, I had this band Farm Days, which
Farm
was
days,
me and my
yeah.
and my friend Brett Nelson, who was my best friend through junior high school and through high school as well. But
Hmm.
he was in Twin Falls, and I was in Boise, and so he and I would write songs and talk to each other, and then every once in a while we'd visit each other and play together, and And then we had found a drummer in Boise, this guy, Andy
Mm-hmm.
Caps. And so it was basically Farm Days was basically the Built to Spill lineup that plays on There's Nothing Wrong with Love.
Oh, wow.
But
Yeah.
years later, us getting back together. So I had
Wow.
that band, and I played like, with like some friend in a kind of cover band that was crappy, and I don't even, we had like one gig or something. But I was not a good enough musician to really like play in a band like that. I could play my own songs, but I couldn't really. I was pretty limited in my abilities back then.
Was there clubs in what was the scene like in back then in Boise?
There's a little bit. Not clubs, but there was people would put on all ages punk shows. At,
Right.
rent out halls,
Mm-hmm.
and do things like that. So my band Farm Days got to play a few of those kinds of things and parties and stuff. I went to tons of shows. There's a band, State of Confusion, that was
Oh
just the
yeah.
absolute best. There's a great
Good.
hardcore band,
Awesome.
and those guys were a few years older than me, but they kind of they like took me in a little bit and
Mm-hmm.
and partied with me and stuff, and then we formed Tree People. The drummer quit, and then the singer went to bass player went to drums, and then I joined, and we became Tree People.
Oh, really? That's the origin story. That was a great band.
Yeah, this was my favorite punk band, and like I said, they were all older guys. They were all like out of high school, so
Mm-hmm.
they're 3 years and 6 years older than me, which when you're 15 or 16 years old is like a whole nother world.
I
And they
know.
were like the coolest people, and it was really fun to hang out with them, be in a band with them. And then we all moved to Seattle together and did Tree People for a few years there.
Was that post high school? Did you move to Seattle or did you?
Yeah, I was
Yeah.
like I was a year or two out of high school, year and a half or something.
Yeah, but you actually started that while you were in high school,
No, Tree People started after high school.
right?
Yeah,
Right after high school.
yeah, probably like a year after or something. Yep, totally.
Yeah. When you moved to Seattle, was that kind of also the beginning of did you kind of dovetail into the big scene that was happening there?
Yeah, I mean, it was. I feel like that year was the first year of Sub Pop. We moved there, I
Yeah.
think, in '89, and maybe Sub Pop started in '88. So
Mm-hmm.
they'd only had a handful of records were out. We knew about Sub Pop, we knew about Nirvana and
Oh yeah.
Soundgarden stuff, and I like that stuff all right. I wasn't super into it. I was into stuff that was more poppy and more melodic, like Dinosaur,
Oh
Pixies,
yeah.
things like that. I felt like Sub Pop was kind of, I don't know, it seemed a little testosterone-y for my
Yeah.
taste back in those days, that kind of stuff.
I mean, it was kind of like the pop scene, right? Like it was
Mudhoney and shit.
it turned into the pop like culture scene, right? That's what's so weird about that scene too. It was like that '90s rock thing.
Yeah, well, I think that stuff was going on. We knew Tad. Tad was on that label. He's from Boise, and he was friends with those guys.
Hmm.
So we were able to play a show or two with him, and um, we knew Chris Taquino was a guy who started Up Records,
Hmm.
that put out Modest Mouse and us and a bunch of stuff in the mid '90s. He passed away in the late '90s, but he worked for Sub Pop a little bit, and they really all like they all trusted him enough to give him a record label,
Hmm.
and he kind of managed Tree People a little bit, and he tried to sell them on Tree People, and they weren't having it. Scotty, our guitar player, went in there and like tried to sell him one of our records, and like Sub Pop never came around to us. So
I
um,
mean, it was awesome. I can totally see the Built to Spill origins in that band too, in the Tree
yeah, oh for
People.
sure, definitely, yeah. That's yeah, I learned a lot from those guys.
Did you have to like run your those? Did you have a good manager then that was trying to help you out then? Like how
We
involved
had
did you?
no we had no management. We managed ourselves. Our bass player Pat was the
Hmm.
guy who made everything happen for us.
Booking and managing?
Well, yeah, I mean, just doing it and working a full-time job, but doing this other stuff too. And we
Totally.
all kind of chipped in a little bit. Me less than everyone else because I was, I mean, when you talk about DIY and talk to me, I feel a little guilty because a lot of people did it for me. I didn't do it for myself. It was mostly other people doing things,
That's still part of
other
it.
people
Like,
DIing. But yeah, um, Pat was the person who, yeah, he just made things happen. Like when we were in Boise, and he's like, let's make a record, or in his old band, State of Confusion, he's the one that made everything happen. Like no one could really imagine making a record, booking
Mm-hmm.
studio time, and just all this sort of like things that at that time, there was a bit of the punk rock ethos going on, and there were fanzines, and people kind of knew how to connect and do things, but it took some research and some tenacity, and that's what he did.
Were you starting to tour with Tree People? Was that actually a tour?
A little bit. I actually booked a tour, a national tour, and then fell in love with a girl and just bagged the whole thing. And that's part of the reason why I kind of got kicked out of the band a little at some point. But that's all confusing and not interesting.
It's part of life, right? It's just like those life
Yeah.
little episodes that happen in our that kind of disrupt everything else.
Yep.
That's
Not much you can
yeah.
do about it.
No, it's just part of the story. Like, was that kind of when you start? Like, what year did Built to Spill start to first enter into your brain? Like, I'm going to do this.
Yeah, exactly. So I followed my girlfriend back to Idaho for her to finish school, and then I kind of fell out of the Tree People. They kind of just decided to do some stuff without me, do a
Mm-hmm.
tour without me. And so I basically had the first Built to Spill record was kind of Tree People, it was going to be a Tree People record, I thought. So that all
Yeah,
fell apart. And so I just, booked some studio time and made that record. It's changed the band. At the time, Built to Spill was going to be. I didn't know where I was going to be. I was going
mm-hmm.
to follow my girlfriend wherever she was going to go to school. So I was just going to put together a temporary band and then move somewhere and keep the name, but put other people in the band. And so that's
Yeah.
kind of how that developed as a part of the band.
Was it really around that idea that it was just like a practical thing? Like it was also a creative
Yeah.
thing? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it was practical to begin, but I also felt like it would be creatively good for me to make different kinds of records. As a big Bowie fan, I always loved that he would make different kinds of
Oh,
records and
incredible.
music,
Mm-hmm.
and so I thought playing with different musicians would do that too. So Built to Spill wouldn't have a sound; it would just be whatever seemed cool to do at the time, and then also there was the kind of personal, the emotional things that come with playing with people and being in people's lives for a long time that at the time. I mean, the Tree People had two brothers in the band, and then
Mm-hmm.
another brother's best friend. So there's like a lot of complicated, you know emotional things going on.
Mini marriages, I call them every time I'm
Yeah,
in a band. You better be good at
exactly.
communication.
Yeah, so part of the idea was to try to keep a honeymoon period going as long as
Yeah.
possible, but that's, there's different ways to weigh it. The longer you play with people, the more, it's kind of the better you get as a band.
Mm-hmm.
And, having people in the band that have some stake in it is important too. I don't know. It's a complex thing that I still deal with.
Yeah. I mean, so you kind of formed in '92, right? And just the first record kind of came out in '94, right?
Yeah, I think maybe, yeah, 90, was it? I think it came out in 93, the Ultimate Alternative Waivers.
Yes. Yeah.
And I got Brett Netzen, who's in Caustic Resin. He's just one of my all-time favorite musicians. I wanted him to play drums, and my girlfriend's brother, Ralph, to play bass, just because I liked him a lot. And he also was a fan of my music, and I felt like they both understood my music
Mm-hmm.
at that point and
Mm-hmm.
liked it, and so they'd be fun to play with. And so we jammed a little bit, and then it seemed like Ralph was a better drummer than Brett. Neither of them were that good, but Ralph was better, so they switched, and we just made a record kind of fucking around in a studio by ourselves late at night. A friend of ours had a studio, and he just let us use it for really cheap, on off hours and late at night and stuff. And then it turned out that in the end, the record label, CZ Records,
Mm-hmm.
run by this incredible guy, Daniel House. I don't know if you've ever heard of him.
No. Oh yeah. Yeah. I've heard of Daniel.
He didn't pay the studio. He sent them CDs of his things that his label put out in lieu of payment.
No way.
And that's just one example of what a great person this guy is.
Wow.
Anyway, enough about him.
How many records did you do in that label?
Just the one. The reason we did it was because Tree People were on that label. Tree People signed to that label just because we were desperate to be on something and have our records come out. And we didn't really like Daniel, but it was, we liked some of the people that worked for him and stuff, and thought it was the best option we had.
That's awesome. And that kind of led to a pretty productive 90s. You had 3 of those records ended up kind of making, even I was kind of looking back. I remember those records made the top 100 list in Pitchfork's 1990s list, right?
I saw that, yeah.
Yeah, I think it was There's Nothing Wrong with Love, Perfect for Me Now, and Keep It Like a Secret, right? I think all 3 of those. It was which Keep It Like a Secret. Yeah, it's weird being in Portland and the friend group we have some folks in our group that claim they've seen you over 150 times, so which is pretty
crazy.
Awesome. Yeah. I mean,
well,
that's the kind of fans you've always had, though. You've always had these
definitely. There's not a ton of them, but you're right. The people we play a lot too. We've been touring pretty hard the whole time. We didn't take much time off. I feel like there was a year or two we took off at one point, but we just keep rolling through, especially through Portland and stuff. So that's really sweet to hear.
Well, one of our sound guys on our crew, Nalene Silva, you probably remember. You've taken a selfie with him every time you've been to the festival.
Oh yeah, I visited his studio and stuff. We used to jam in the same building as studio for a little bit.
Cool.
A few years ago.
That's awesome. The Revolver studio back in the day, or whatever studio.
Is that what it is? I thought. Well, it was in that cement factory building.
Oh yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Is that the right one? Well, maybe I'm confused. But anyway, we had a couple different kind of temporary rehearsal spaces in Portland, and one of them he had a studio.
And what's kind of always interesting to me is you're kind of self-producing, kind of following the passions. How does success in selling the records kind of lead you to kind of your first Warner Brothers phase? What got you connected to Warner Brothers?
You know what? When There's Nothing Wrong with Love came out, a bunch of people heard it right away. We went on tour right after it came out, and a bunch of, I can't remember if maybe the first thing I got was a call from a lawyer saying that some labels were interested. And so we went on tour, and I kind of met with people from a few different labels on this tour. And I don't know. Yeah, it was kind of a, thing. Took a few months and stuff to figure out what to do. And we went with Warner Brothers, mostly because we liked the guy who signed us. And Warner Brothers kind of had a good history and tradition of supporting artists that didn't necessarily sell that well. Or at least that was the impression we were under, felt like that they, and that's kind of how it ended up working for us too. We didn't really sell very well, but they kept us around the whole time. We finished our whole contract with them. We had whatever it was, 6 or 7 options, and they picked up every option. So
it wasn't a bad experience.
No, it wasn't. And at the time, it was kind of my feeling at the time was that I didn't want to tour. I wanted to stay home with my family, and that if I signed to this label, there's a chance I could make a living making music and not have to go on tour. And then it turned out to be basically the opposite. All the money that we make is from touring. We make a tiny bit of money off of records.
I know, isn't that weird?
And it's kind of always been that way too. It took us a long time to get into the black with Warner Brothers. And part of how we did it was restructuring our deal to erase some of our debt, but to get less of an advance or something. And I don't know if we got ripped off or if we did well, but at this point we don't sell many records. We get a little trickle of income through, mostly through all the streaming services and stuff.
Yeah. My thought is you interact with those kind of folks like Warner Brothers, established ones, when it works for you. It's being kind of independent or thinking of it isn't, doesn't mean you have to have so principles you don't run the business right side of it. So
Totally. And for musically, they allowed us to do exactly what we wanted to do, or
which is
everything.
great.
They never told us to do anything ever at all. One time they wanted us to remix a record, and I was like, yeah, I would love to remix the record. So I think we could do a better job too. So mostly they just let us do our thing and, paid us when they were supposed to and gave us a good budgets to make the record so we could spend a little bit of money and pay everyone right and
Mm-hmm.
spend a bunch of time on it and everything. And that's what we did. We've spent almost everything they gave us to make records. We didn't, we didn't do anything cheap.
Yeah, you just made the best music you could.
Yeah, exactly. We thought that this money is for making music. It's for, yeah, and for paying everyone. Like if you have a independent band, local band, whatever, and you go to the studio, they cut you a deal or whatever. With this, it's like, yeah, we'll pay you whatever you deserve. Like there's no cutting deals because we got money to pay for it.
Yeah, it's interesting. We've always thought of like part of we make a lot of content. We do a lot of like video and stuff, and we had a dream that actually would be the way that we can keep it kind of cool and intimate and small, like irrationally small, because we could probably fit a lot more people.
Mm-hmm.
But content's tough. Like making the actual money off the content is been a
Mm-hmm.
wild struggle for us, like just trying
Mm-hmm.
to first find people that would sponsor it, because the
Mm-hmm.
actual money from the streaming services is not significant, not even at a huge scale. It's not significant.
Well, it's also it's hard. I mean, the content, like with YouTube, and people can just like go find a concert by anyone. It's hard to make things like that make someone really want it.
Yeah,
But you guys I guess you have a brand that people appreciate, so that probably helps.
I mean, yeah, and it's crazy. It's expensive. We have over the years kind of built this idea that yeah, it's a film set, and that our idea was like, okay, let's influence pop culture. Let's move the needle, quite just like see if we can get in there and create enough that people are like open up the space for more music that we love. And then we got obsessed with the idea that having to record it in a way that translated to film, which just drove us crazy to like have some kind of like single camera crappy audio. And so it became like a whole obsession. But I mean, the reality of it is like, early on we could do things like selling, for us selling, we could sell sponsorships on some of this. COVID came, kind of killed that whole business. And now we're left with YouTube is so good at targeting whoever you want to target that there's no reason they need to sponsor us. They just target
Mm-hmm.
25-year-olds in Portland
Right.
that like McRib sandwiches, whatever they want to do. And so we're truly a commodity. Like we still are committed to that idea, but the content has been like passionate for us. Like how does this how because I do think it's important and to be relevant and keep have the conversation open to more music and pop culture. I just think if you just let the default stuff happen, you're not fighting. Like there's too much amazing stuff that happens at Pickathon, and part of it is because it's just not overwhelmingly crappy experience. It's not too crowded. It's intimate, and it's just it. But in
Nature.
nature, it all comes back to the fact that really the event still is like touring is really the only way for us to make a living. And so we're kind of like rethinking a lot of the things like scale. Like we have to pay people more, we have to figure this out. And we're thinking of things like, well, maybe part of this thing is like a nonprofit or something. Like it's like the festival our size should not have 15 different performance spaces, like 7 or 8 public, and it's just dumb. But it's also the thing that we and our community and all the crazy people that want to make this thing as amazing as we can do it. That's what we are. So it's like really trying to find that intersection between the business and staying motivated and creative, and and just surviving. Like there's just it's a weird balance. So yeah, so like content for us is like a dream still. We'd love to figure that out. Like I'd love it to be that artists could make more you're off of recording, but I just touring is probably the is probably the thing for still is the thing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, of course, there's some recording artists that do great, but for most of us, it's going to be hitting the road.
Yeah, and last we ran into each other. Well, I didn't get to talk to you, but I was just happened to be in Bend when I was
Oh,
driving
yeah.
down the road at visiting my parents back in November, and looked up with my friend Tim Labarge, their kids. We're huge fans, and now our kids are huge fans, like in the front row of your shows
Sweet.
all the time. And then you were playing the Domino Room, yeah, Domino Room, right? The
Hmm.
which is I'd never been in there. It's kind of a I love it. It's kind of like a cool little crappy rock and
It's a
roll
fucked up
club.
place. Yeah.
Yeah, with like a old skating rink on one side, the Midtown, and the Domino Room on the other, and it's
Yeah, there's like another room over to the side too. Did you see that? There's like another bigger, that's a skate rink?
that's an 1,100 cap venue that used to be the skate rink
Ah, interesting.
for, and I don't know if they still like put up that skating rink. Like I actually knew the old owners of that place.
Looks small for a skating rink, but I guess I haven't been in a skating rink since I was a little kid. So
Yeah, I met the owner there, like because actually went to two different shows, and one was on the Domino, the other one was the infamous String Dusters over on the, and I noticed that they they actually move their entire beer cooler on casters. It's this giant thing, and they like literally to switch the venue, they have to move all this equipment from one side to the other, and I was like, that is so crazy, and but it's just like yeah, venues for to me like seeing you in that venue was like was just the greatest. I love that. I loved
nice.
seeing that energy in there.
Hmm.
Yeah, did you when
And Prison Bitch. I'm glad you enjoyed Prison Bitch. Glad to hear that.
they were great. So was Itchy Kitty.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Itchy Kitty played too. Oh yeah, they're amazing.
And Prison Bitch, actually, you guys share drummers, right?
Yeah.
Is she always been in Prison Bitch?
We took her from Prison Bitch.
Oh, really? So is she living in Albuquerque?
Hmm.
That's cool. How did you guys meet? What was the connection?
I saw Prison Bitch at Treefort in 2018, and I just loved
Hmm.
them. And then met them. They were fans of Built to Spill, and so then we ended up playing. We passed through Albuquerque and had a night where we needed an opener, so they opened for us there. And then we hung out more, realized how much we really liked each other, and then Tree People did a tour, and Prison Bitch opened for us, and then Built to Spill's done a bunch of tours with them. Just in 2019, we did a big tour with them, and that was when I decided to ask Teresa to join the band.
Oh, that's cool. It was incredible. The live show is like the thing for Prison Bitch too.
Yeah,
It's
yeah. I like the records. I think they have really good songs and stuff. But yeah, the live thing is just. I mean, I've seen them 100 times, and I still just they blow me away every time. Still, I love them so much.
and when that's actually the first time you guys came to Pickathon, right? Was 2000, but was 2008.
Yeah, it was. Yep, it was right after that.
That was so fun. I mean, did you have a good? How has your
I had a
Pickathon
great time.
experiences?
I remember people telling me about Pickathon and telling me
Hmm.
that we should do it. And then I remember we got an offer, and my agent was like, "This offer is not good."
It's not.
And I
I
was like, "That's all right. I don't
know.
care." It was like less money than we make for one show, and we were supposed to play two times. And I was like, "I don't care. It's gonna. We want to go. Sounds.
Oh,
I've heard it's a great festival, and the money's. This is the kind of thing that people pay money to go just hang out at. I mean that's a lot of what my job is: getting paid to do things that people would do for free or pay to do.
mm-hmm,
Just playing
mm-hmm,
music. I mean, of
mm-hmm.
course, there's a lot of work involved, but the main part of it is just like funnest thing that a lot of us can imagine doing. So yeah, it was a no-brainer, and then it was magical. It was everything that I'd been told, and even more for me.
That's awesome. And you came back in 22, and you camped that
I
time.
bet actually after 2018, I had some kind of correspondence with you folks, and I was like, can I come back? I was like,
Yeah.
maybe I'd heard that you guys don't let bands come year to year, or you have to have something out, and I was like, can I just come back in any capacity every
Yeah.
year just to be a part of this event?
Oh,
So
that's so awesome. And yeah, it was just the show. I mean, we ran each other. Gosh, you had been camping, right? You camped that
yeah,
year,
we did. Yeah,
which was so awesome.
I camped. We camped both times.
Did you? Yeah,
Yeah, I camped last time too.
do other festivals do camping like that? Like, I'm just
I don't
curious.
know. I know in Europe they have those big ones that have camping. I don't really know. I feel like they do to some degree. I don't think they have such rad camping though. You know what I mean? Like I think most of them there's like a
Hmm.
parking lot of tents. You know, not up in the hills and stuff. I don't. I've never been to anything like that, and I can't imagine. You know, maybe like Bonnaroo. Does that have camping? That seems like it might. I don't
I
really
don't
know.
know. I mean, they do for people, but we always thought it'd be super cool to kind of have that kind of service for artists too. Like just
Well,
and
it's
yeah,
such awesome camping too. Yeah, totally. The service that you do for the artists for camping is amazing. You
yeah.
know, setting up tents for us, and we just show up, and there's our little, and always give us a sweet spot and everything. No, it's really nice.
Do any of those? I mean, all those performances go down in lore for us. But does any of those of the four you played stick out like for you? Like which of those sets?
Yeah, I have some kind of mixed feelings. I remember them all pretty well, and I don't remember Built to Spill shows in
Hmm.
general, but I do have feelings attached to each one.
You
Um,
won Cherry Hill and Lucky last year, I think.
Yeah. Last, we only played once last year, the band, and then I
22.
played solo.
You
Is that
played
right?
solo. Yeah, but I thought you brought in your band to play solo, or did you actually end up playing solo?
Oh yeah, I just played. Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, that's right. The thing where we with the lunch thing or whatever.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
forgot about that one. So yeah, that one was like that one just felt like I don't know. That was a something happened. Like I didn't bring any effects or something, so I just kind of playing a clean guitar the whole show or some weird thing. Something about it that was like not quite built to
Not right
spill.
there. Yes.
The other show though I loved and I had a really great time and I felt like I redeemed myself from
Oh
2018.
man.
I felt like both shows in 2018 were were like I was not happy with them. I felt kind of a certain like this is so great to be here and like here we go and then it was kind of like a struggle
It was
both
but it's an
times.
early version of the band though too. Like, wasn't that probably one of your first shows?
Oh no, it was a different band. It was
Oh, that's right.
it
That's
was
right.
it
That was your
was it
original.
was Steve and Jay, but without the other two guitar players. It was like it
Hmm.
was us being a three piece kind of early in our three piece days. So maybe that was part of it. Part of it I remember the second show, the one that was like not the main stage one, the other
In the
one.
woods.
What?
In the woods.
Yeah, in the woods. That one, I was sitting there waiting to play, and I was like, okay, I guess we're supposed to play in like 15 minutes, but that other band is still on stage or putting it or doing. And I was like, hold on a sec. What? This is, oh no, that's not the right stage. And then
No
maybe someone
way.
was texting me, and there's some kind of like exchange of text between me and someone at the festival telling me what to do, and I like had to run, and I had went through someone with a cup, and someone's like, "No, you can't take that." And I was like, "Sorry, I gotta." And it was like this horrible thing, and I got to the stage like just panicked, late, and just like I fucking ruined Pickathon. I broke Pickathon with my
You can't ruin Pickathon. And no one would even picked up on that. I do remember that 2022 on the Cherry Hill, that was just that main stage performance was just so epic. Just so
thanks. Yeah,
awesome.
I remember having a great time and just feeling so good and feeling somehow redeemed. And I don't remember specifically, but that's sweet
Yeah.
to hear.
Oh yeah. No, there was many that the some of our diehards they were like that was one of their favorite sets they'd ever seen you play. Right.
Nice,
That particular show. So that was pretty
sweet.
awesome. Yeah, and so kind of full circle back in between those two, you actually did end up, you didn't get interest from Sub Pop the first time, but you did the second time.
Yeah,
what,
yeah.
how'd that start? What was that story?
Well, kind of after Warner Brothers, we've done all these records, and it was time to move on. Um, and I talked to some people. I talked to a couple labels like that Jaguar.
Oh yeah, Secretly
Um,
Canadian, Ben and Chris
mhm.
Swanson. Hmm.
Yeah, Chris Swanson and I talked a little bit, and I was like, "Yeah, let's do it. That sounds great." But I also talked to Sub Pop. My friend Frank
Hmm.
works there, does publicity there,
Hmm.
and I'm also friends with Megan. Kind of runs the show over there,
Hmm.
and so those guys also expressed some interest, and and then it came down. I was like, I don't want to talk to a bunch of people. I'm just going to do this with Chris and just be done with it. And
Ah,
so I told that to Frank, and Frank was like, "Oh, can we just have a meeting? Can we just?"
can we just talk?
And I was like, "Okay." And then I told Chris that Frank said that, and Chris was like, "You should just go with them."
Oh really?
Yeah, he felt like they would be a better fit for us because he felt like they do more younger bands and stuff, and they work with Dinosaur with Dinosaur, and he
Hmm.
felt like they just don't really. They feel like he felt like they would do a better job or as good a job or whatever, and I was like, okay, so it's kind
That's
of
cool.
a yeah, it was fine. I love Sub Pop. I love all those folks.
Yeah, and I think I know Greg. I think he's one of the general managers over there.
Hmm.
Yeah, and that was When the Wind Forgets Your Name, right? That's the record you came out. You have
Yep.
another one coming out with them, or is it a multi-record deal?
It's at least a two record deal, but I have no records in me right now.
Yeah. What's the current state of mind? What's going on for you?
Well, during the 2020 time, I finished that record, and I was holed up here alone in Boise, and then right as soon as we got vaccinated, we just started playing shows in
Mm,
2021, and we've been basically on the road, you know,
ever
much of the
since.
time for the last 2.5 years. Yeah. So that's all I've been doing that, thinking about that. And then just regular life stuff has been going on too. And haven't been writing songs. I have a few pieces of things that have been around for a while. And maybe I wrote one song
Yeah.
in the last few
You got
years,
to be in the
but
mood,
yeah.
right? It just kind of the situations
Yeah.
have
And
to
I'm
come.
not, yeah, to me, it's neither here nor there. And if I'm done writing songs, that's fine too.
Yeah.
But
That's cool. That's a good healthy way.
yeah, and I feel so lucky that I get to go play shows and do it that way. I love it so much. I love playing live, and I just feel so lucky to get to do this for a living, and I'm happy.
What do you think? I always think if it's doing something so long, like what is it that you still love about it? Playing, stuff you've been playing and like people and like how does it stay fun for you?
I don't know. I think fun stuff is like that.
It
Eating
is. I guess
food
it's
or
just,
shooting hoops or
yeah.
just like that satisfaction of things. Like being good at something. And I
Hmm.
say I'm good at it in a relative way. I'm good at it because I've done it for 30 years or
Yeah.
35 or however many years.
But you also enjoy it.
So
That's the,
yeah, I mean that's what I mean. I think I enjoy it because I got good at it. It took me a long time. I feel like even 10 years ago, I was I still had a lot of confidence issues. Even though I was
hmm
doing it and I enjoyed things about it, but I've really kind of found a pocket in the last however few years or whatever that I love it more than ever and feel like really confident. Playing with these ladies that I'm playing with now is so fun and
hmm
just like gives me a lot of extra confidence too, just because they're fun to play with and they sound so good. They make me sound good.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, I love that essence of what makes it goable. It's not just a job. Okay, I got to do it because I have to, I got to collect the paycheck, right? And in fact, I'm doing it in a weird way. Like I should be back, working for what I got trained for at school, like electrical engineer. Should make,
Hmm.
but I was like, I'm at a point in my life where I want to do things that I like to do, and hell or high water, we got to get good at it. So we're practicing.
Right.
But I just love that perseverance, and it's still fun. And because it kind of feeds into that I'm not crazy. Because, sometimes you
Well,
would look what we do and you're just like, why?
well, I've been lucky, and so have you, in that people have appreciated what we're doing. So many
Hmm.
people struggle to, you know, make music or produce shows or do things, and don't have the luck and whatever
Hmm.
we've had on top of
Perseverance.
the work. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
totally.
I don't know. I mean, I would like to think I'd persevere and be a lifetime rocker, but I don't know if I hadn't had some success and people weren't interested, if I would have kept doing it.
I
It's
I know.
hard. It's hard to do stuff when you're not encouraged. And I don't know. I feel for people that are better, I don't know, not better, but as good as I am at music, that just never caught on for whatever stupid reason.
Right. It's not fair.
It's not fair. Another thing that's not
The
fair.
world is not fair. Yes. Like I said, we always argue that, like, I find these amazing bands in Canada sometimes, and I'm like, it's like a 8-piece kind of bilingual rap world band from Montreal. I'm like, how does this band survive? Well, in Canada, right? They just, like, they pay you if you're a musician, right? And that's so it can be fair in other cool places. Things can
Right.
exist, but it's certainly not fair here, right? It's either like bare knuckles, you figure it out, or you don't.
Yeah. Seriously.
Yeah, I mean, also, I we actually share another thing, that we're both hoops fans, but I don't know if you're hoops fans. Is it just NBA, or are you also college?
I'm more NBA. It's too much to keep track of the college
Hmm.
people.
And Blazers, is that the main
Yeah, they were my main
NOLA?
team definitely for a while, and I kind of I don't really ever since I started playing fantasy basketball. I don't even care about teams, only about my fantasy man.
Oh, really? I haven't tried that. I actually, is it fun? Or
It's
just
kind of fun, but it does that. It'll take away. You'll be rooting for you'll be
a
rooting for your
stat?
guy against your Blazers.
Hmm. I'm actually from Kentucky, so like
Oh,
my social strata of Kentucky basketball games were always like a mini holiday on, and they still are on the calendar, where everything stops and you can go hang out, right, and watch this game. And it's like it it kind of is like that with the Blazers. It's not quite as like ingrained in the fabric of like literally everybody like it is in
right. Well,
Kentucky.
it's not as special. They play so many games, and
Yeah, well, I wish, yeah, but I still, to this date, I still watch and kind of like get obsessive about just watching Kentucky. So I try to pull people into my universe of like, hey, let's go hang out and watch this. It's just like, it's like, it's hard for other people to fit like what feels nonsensical into their lives. But, I love basketball. So I don't play though. You actually play.
well, kind of. Yeah, I didn't play until I was about 30, and then I played for 10 years, and I shoot around, but I can't really play anymore.
Yeah, you play on the wing.
I play all over the place when I play.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I'm like a hustler. I'm not that skilled. I mean, I've been shooting enough that I'm an okay shooter after years of shooting all the time.
Hmm.
But I was more of a hustle player that would just like just give everything I got every play.
It's cool, but it's just, that kind of stuff, just as you just having a fulfilling life, whatever mix you have is the best you can ask for, right? Like, just, so hats off to you, man. I'm stoked for you. Do you any big things in the future besides touring, or you're gonna just, you picturing anything here in the next year or two?
Not really. Yeah, my big thing is not touring for a few months, and we don't have anything going on till Treefort in March, and then maybe probably not touring until August of next year. So I'm looking forward to just a little downtime, and I don't know. Maybe I'll get into making some music. Maybe I'll just watch
Who
basketball
knows?
and watch and run my fantasy world, and I don't know.
That's cool. Well, it's like a well-deserved kind of, yeah, part of life, and it's like I totally try to give advice to the people that everyone's wants to be part of Pickathon. I try to tell them I don't know if we're going to be around next year, because we don't actually know until I think it's going to be February before we know we even have permission for the next 10 years to run a festival.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
That's how crazy our world is. But
oh my God.
Yeah, I'm optimistic, I think at some point, I hope to get to the point where we're just figuring out have things stable, and life is just it still feels fulfilling to me, even in all this chaos. And I still feel really lucky and fortunate, and the community is amazing. But the
uncertainty is pretty tough. Yeah.
The uncertainty is pretty tough. And just the getting a handle on how this becomes sustainable, because I like to take care of people. I like to imagine that this is not just something fun, but it's actually, sustainable in some weird kind of way. So yeah, that's going to be our journey over this summer.
Cool. Well, let me know if you, I'm trying to think, I don't know if Pickathon will even work for us this year. I think we might have
the 4th.
Yeah, I think we might have something booked in Portland.
People are going to be really
after
mad
that.
at me. Yes.
I know. I'm going to be mad too. Maybe I can do something else. Maybe I can come down there and just DJ or something.
Oh, hell yeah. Do you DJ?
Well, I play songs one after the other and pick them and play them.
Yeah, but that would be so
not real DJ, not DJ. But.
Well, let's brainstorm. Let's figure out something that works for you, because I'm totally in. All in.
Awesome. Me too.
Cool. Well, Doug, it's been awesome to chat with you today. It's really been fun just to kind of catch up and really have more. This is our best, longest conversation. I hope to have many more. Maybe I'll come to Treefort and you can show me around.
I'd love it, for sure.
Cool.
I appreciate it, Zale. Thanks.
Well, everyone, thank you for tuning in today. This is the end of this Pickathon podcast. We'll be back next week with something else, and I wish everyone a happy new year, and Merry Christmas has already happened, so we'll just say Happy New Year for everyone, and we'll keep letting you know what happens on the front of whether the festival is going to happen. We're just assuming it is, so let's just go with it's going to happen, and we'll go have it in my backyard or something. If we can't have it at Pendarvis Farm, we'll figure it out. So all right, everyone.
Good.
See you, everyone. Bye.
Bye.
You've been listening to the Pickathon Podcast. This podcast is produced by Zale Schoenborn, Tanner McCullough, and Evan Throckmorton. Our artwork is by Travis Bone, and additional support by Ryan Stiles. The music you heard in this episode was by our guest of honor, Built to Spill. The songs included were Revolution, Wherever You Go, and the one we're riding out on right now, Spiderweb. Be sure to check out our Pickathon Patreon, where we have exclusive interviews, content, and insights into the Pickathon world. Please remember to rate, review, and subscribe wherever you hear your podcasts. And tell a friend about where they can get on the Pickathon bandwagon. Thank you to the whole Pickathon family. And like Zale said, we'll catch you all next week.